What's up, everybody? All right. Well, before I came in, I was busy with Mike earlier, and I thought one of the things I was impressed by the game is just the second half and the attitude, where the ball really came to life. So that was one of my favorite parts of the night, because if you had been in there with us at halftime, there were some unhappy campers. We were not pleased allowing a field goal right before the half and a touchdown earlier. So I was certain we'd come out with some good determination in the second half, and it was very good to see that. So I was especially proud of seeing Kearse and Hooker on the interceptions. I'm proud of those two guys anyway. We put so much on them, and we wouldn't be able to do all that we can do without them. And checks and game plan assignments and little nuances that go throughout a game. We're in constant communication with those two. So although maybe outside the building they don't get all the, names that others do. Inside, man, do we feel their presence and what they do. So with all that said, be glad to open up to you guys and we can get it rocking.
Okay. David Moore, Dallas Morning News. You've talked to us before about when you're away for the game for that brief period, kind of looking at things differently defensively and approaching a little difference in your calls and what you wanted to do.
For sure.
Now that you're back and you have a player like Parsons who comes at an offense from so many different spots, how much has it altered how you put together a game plan going into a game defensively? How much of it is what you were looking at before, and how much of it is specific to what he can do?
Yeah, he and others have pushed me to, find out things that somebody can do. And so they don't have to come in for a specific package, but if they can be in the game and then we can move the pieces around, I thought that would be more valuable, as opposed to, I remember a year ago, a friend that I'd coached against had said we knew if it was 3 D linemen in him or 4 D linemen in him where he would be. And so I remembered that lesson and heading into the offseason to say, okay, that's a good challenge for us to find how we can be in a package that we want to be, but make it look different without having to change, an entire, defensive package. So that is, kind of the catalyst of why it got pushed there. And J.K. does that, and Leighton does that, and some others. But having that ability to move around within. And like I said, some of the guys in basketball have influenced me on that too, to say, here's a guy who can handle the ball, but he doesn't traditionally play a 5, so how would you use a player like that? And so when you have somebody that has unique stuff, it's forced me to, push myself in that direction too.
Do you look at one guy and build it out from there, or do you look at the scheme and historically what that offense does and use that as a broader point and kind of go in?
Yeah, I think it's as the broader point, because I think you have to, as you get to the end of the week, it always comes back to you. But at the starting part of the week, it's all the unique things that a team has and how do we play this and what are the looks that we would have. And so you do start with the opponent, but I think you eventually always come back to yourself and to say, these are the looks, these are the things, this is how we'd like to play. And, certainly going into the game last week, the run game was certainly one of our focuses. They've got exceptional running backs. And I thought, going in, that was going to be one of the real focal points of how good Hall and, Cook are, that we'd better tackle well. And we better have that part of our game on point. And so that was one of the things that we hit. So I was pleased to see us tackle like we did in the game, knowing how explosive those two guys are. They've got the ability to take one all the way. If you just miss a fit or miss a tackle, those guys can go. So we thought we really need energy and speed to go hit them. But it does start with the opponent first. But then as the Friday comes and Saturday comes, it kind of turns back towards us and how we'll go attack them.
Clarence, before we start talking, you've been around great players, but does Micah take your breath away just with some of the stuff he does with his play, but this suddenness, but his attitude?
I think I told you this earlier, that he has really worked his ass off this offseason. And I always have time for, when you see somebody really put that kind of work in. And in fact, just the other day, as a whole group, we were working on the things over this first part of the season that we wanted to get better at. And as I was looking around the room, it was easy to find he got better at this and he got better at this. And so if we could do that again over the next 4 and 5 weeks about just trying to constantly improve, I thought that'd be a big step. But he really threw himself one hell of an offseason. He's faster, his hands are better, his rushing's better. So just that jump that you'd hope somebody would make, it was intentional about how he put the work in. And he's definitely playing, better than he ever has.
Todd Archer of the ESPN.
Which is saying a lot.
Todd Archer of the ESPN, his ability to close Have you been around a guy like that where it just happened? So his first sack, I mean, it was two steps and he was there.
Yeah, from 0 to 60, it goes fast. And that's the part that I think is so unique about him. It's the short area quickness, the ability to stop and start quickly. And so that's why when there's a space and the guy's, 1 yard away, 3 yards away, he can close that distance with that kind of acceleration. That is one of his superpowers. And it's on full display, when we blitz, when we chase, when we run, where you can feel that energy coming at you.
And with Sharif, have you reached out to him today?
Yeah, I saw him today. Yep. So he's doing well, and we'll be back. You'll see him back out on the field tomorrow.
Hey Dan, Sadi's with The Athletic. Yesterday after the game, Micah said that he welcomes teams running at him and running at you guys as a defense. And just curious, after all the dialogue that was happened publicly last year about y'all's run defense, did you take that personally at all? Or, what was the offseason conversation around the run defense and how you guys have kind of handled the first 2 weeks?
Right. With no offense at all, I do not rely on outside dialogue to let us know how we play. So I want to make sure I'm not dissing you on that. But that was a fact, that we were not playing the run as well as we can. And so that was really important to us to make sure if we're going to be as good as we can be, it couldn't be in one phase or just another phase. It had to be all across the board if we really want to be that type of group. And one of the fun parts about coaching this group is the standards that they have for one another, and really to push it and go. And part of why they were so pissed off at halftime, shit, we let up a field goal here at the half, and we felt disappointment, and we wanted to go show that we were better than that. And so I thought in the second half that was a clear example of that. But whether it's in the run game or forcing takeaways or affecting the quarterback, if you want to be excellent at something, it can't just be in one spot, and you've got to be able to do it over the whole course, because as you know, certain teams are going to attack in certain ways, and that's why I do love coaching this group. We've got enough big guys to go hunker down and play it that way, and we've got speed obviously on the edges to rush and cover. So having that whole combination, I think, is what makes us fun and unique.
How good you guys are statistically against the run through 2 weeks? Is that a product of the improvements? Obviously the score plays a role in that too, a combination of both. How do you view
Yeah, I
that?
definitely think it's a combination of both. Let's face it, our offense played fantastic. To us to have probably the fewest plays I think we've had in quite some time, but we played well on third down, but our offense played fantastic on third down. And so having chances for them to extend drives and keep going, we were pretty fresh, as the game went on in the second half. We were ready to go each time we went out. It wasn't a long extended drive. So I think it was probably a combination of our improvement in that area, along with how the game's played. And each week's a little different, to how it goes. I certainly thought it was going to be a heavy running game going in, and it wasn't into that space.
Michael Galton, Dallas Morning News. Where have you seen Osa take the next step in his game? And since you've been around him, his maturity and just professionalism, and how do you see just kind of the way he's wired and how that's connected with the progress he's made?
Yeah, I would say, I think I may have used this one term before, maybe I haven't, it's called counterpunching. And so there was times in training camp I'd see him get up at the top of the move and just kind of stop and get stuck and not be able to go. And so we really talked about when you get to hear what comes next, I think that, Michael, is one of the things I've been most impressed by him, is his ability to, when a guy's oversetting, how do I throw my rip back to the other way and use the balance? And with his wrestling background, it's there. And so how does that transfer into football and pass rush? It does, because he's playing lower, he's playing faster, and I think in this case, the ability to see a set and come back the other way, to set somebody up and come back, that's what has changed. That's why I use the word counterpunching, where if I don't win on my first move, it doesn't mean the pass rush is over. It just means this is how I'll counter. So, but coming in, he was such a mature guy early, and even as a rookie, I would imagine he had one of the very fewest mistakes, a missed assignment or, a decision that wasn't right. He was so connected in that way. So he came in already above the curve in terms of how he could take it, but you see his physical development has just changed so much, how his body is, how strong he is. So those are the things I think he just added on to his game.
And when there are fewer than 50 defensive snaps coming out of the game, how does that change the initial postmortem? Obviously your film review, I imagine, would be quicker. but then even playing into the week ahead, knowing that guys' bodies are a little bit more fresh than they would be otherwise.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of guys wanting to fight to get in, so that's a good thing. You know, like being a little pissed on the sideline, like I want in on this one. So that goes with a good competitive group too. So we've got a big deep crew that will roll in hard every week, and we like to roll people certainly in the front and at linebacker, especially to make sure at those 2 minutes at the half, at those 2 minutes at the end of the game, we'll be at our best. And it was why we were a little bit pissed off about that at the end of that first half too.
Patrick.
And Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. As elite as the defense has been on one or two occasions last year, Green Bay, Jacksonville, team gets up big on the scoreboard, but there was a little bit of a let up at the end, something that Micah Parsons was angry about going into the offseason. 70-10 point differential right now, and it seems like you guys are playing wire to wire. Talk about the importance of not letting up when you have a big game. I mean, look at the Jets' 3 interceptions late in the game when that was well put away. So the importance of that going forward.
Yeah, that's a great topic, and we do want to be finishers in all ways and in all facets, and that's kind of the standard that I think is happening now, and the accountability from the players. And so seeing that without having to say it, but to live it, and to make sure that the focus stays right, you stay locked in to go. And so when you see those moments, player to player, that to me is where you're taking another step. And so we've definitely seen that from here. The locker room wasn't, over the top pool party time. It was, okay, it was a nice win. It was good. We played well. We prepared hard. They did all the things that you want to do. But now here comes the next one, and you got to put the whole process back into it. And that's, kind of was my message today. Hey, man, the process takes care of all the learning, but you do have to put every single step of the way in. So by the time you get to Sunday, I can't wait for this game, because you put the work in. You're like, I want this look, I want that play, I want that moment, because I put the work in to do it. And that's, kind of what I'm excited to see.
Dan Bradsham, Cowboys Radio. Building on Patrick's question, did you see during the offseason, or maybe when you got to camp, or as camp unfolded, that the players for themselves raised the bar on what they expected of themselves weekly and for the season?
I most definitely did, Brad. And I think probably it started in the offseason when we were wanting to make sure who we wanted to be. So every time our friends and our family watched us play, they said, man, you guys play fast. You guys, play tough. You try to out-hit them. You go after the ball. So whether they came to practice, whether they came to a game, that they'd leave there saying that. And that didn't mean one time. That's the hard part, to make sure every time we go, we get it on in this facet, to where we're hungry, we play, and we go. And so when we don't see that, we try to make sure we point that out to one another. And that's what's made it more fun, where the leadership comes from within to say, okay, a little competition, who's getting the first one of a takeaway, who gets the first big hit, those are things that push player to player. And that's what I have seen.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. You talk a lot about Micah in this space. How fast for starters has Lawrence been for you so far?
Yeah, I thought, man, as he played really aggressive. And that's, no shit, Dan. But there's a level that you can go to where he's playing at different spots. I saw him have a really good rush outside at the right end, where he's played so much left end and had good things. But when we can move guys around into different spaces, I think that's what really sets it apart. And so he's so active. He thinks about the ball. You saw him on a rush. He got his hand on one that was, I believe, it was down near their end zone. It hit the ground where Diggs was, but he got a piece of that one. It's just the awareness to not just rush, but to try to, extend and win the last yard of the pass rush. And so those are the things that I've seen with him. But he has really improved, where now he can really align almost anywhere along the defensive line and feel very comfortable doing that. And so you can imagine that's not as easy to do when you've played mostly left end for your career. So I really tip my hat to him for not only accepting that, but to say, okay, hey, this is another part of how we play.
What you're doing with Micah kind of influences that a little bit with him when he says, hey, he's working with this guy.
I think it's part of it, but not the driving reason. Sometimes we just want to, put him in a matchup too. And so not one size fits all. And so we do talk a lot about Micah and Trey and a lot, but there's a lot of other players that have that's why I was so proud, like I said, of Curse and of Hooker and a guy like D-Law and DA, that we move into different spots, and when they get their chances, they nail those. And sometimes you can overplay to one player, and that's what's fun about our group. If you do that, we're going to be prepared to attack in another way. And so if you overplay your hand to one side, there's some other people that are ready to take that action.
Newey, Joe, and I'll finish off with Babe.
Oh, I got the end.
Yep.
Newey Scruggs, NBC5. Reggie Jackson once said he was the strongest turtle drink for the Yankees. Would you fairly say, or could I say, that Mike is the same thing for your defense, or Mike?
He's definitely one of the straws. There's no doubt about it. He's so unique in the way that he plays, but he's off the ball, he's inside, he's outside. So I would say his uniqueness allows us to do things. But without some of the other players, we wouldn't be able to do that because of people being able to move and play other spots and do things. So it is part of the fun, and you haven't seen it all yet for sure. So we're just hopefully getting started on how we're going to feature everybody. But yeah, he's a lot of fun to coach because he's definitely up for whatever challenge that we throw at him. He wants to play corner, I'll do that. He wants to block a punt, or he wants to be on special teams. He wants to carry the ball. So he is a true competitor at his core.
Joe Hoyt, Lone Star Live. We know the importance of Stephon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs in pass defense, but does your trust in them on the outside impact the way you kind of attack the run game?
Well, that's a good question. I would say I definitely have the trust in them. It allows us to play more, single high, defenses when we want, knowing that that's where you could be more vulnerable to go. But we do like to play that not just in the run game, but you'll see that in our pressures as well, where we put a lot of opportunities for them to play single outside, knowing that, hey, we're going to try and go hit the quarterback too. So I think it's both things, part of the rush and part of the run game. But either way, it does allow us to change, how I can call the game based on their ability to play outside on those freeways.
Babe Loftberg, Cowboys Radio. Just as an aside, Dan, you said you don't listen to the outside noise. We're all in here to help, right, if you ever need it.
Oh, of course I do. Yes, I do, right here.
You're playing so well defensively. How do you balance between saying, hey, let's not change anything, touch anything, with trying to move forward, if you will?
Yeah, I think what we're always searching for is like constant improvement. So it doesn't have to be a scheme change for you to get better. It might just be, hey, I need more work on different technique and man-to-man, or taking on my double teams, or tracking a deep ball from my left side compared to my right side. So all the guys, we call them work-ons. Hey, what's the things you want to work on to get better over this next couple of months? And it may not be, a couple of weeks, pre-practice or post-practice or in practice, things to say, I want to get better at this one part of my game. And if collectively we continue to do that and don't just stay still, then I think we got a chance to really improve. Because when I saw, looking around the room from the off-season program into training camp, to see the jumps being made, I'm expecting those jumps to take place again in season. And if we do that and keep improving, then I think we got a shot to be who we want to be. But it doesn't have to be a scheme change for us to do that. Like coaches, we have things, our work-ons as well, from planning or teaching or the way we want to communicate or we want to feature the guys or game planning. But the players, for them, whether it be tackling or, tracking the ball or, working stacks and bunches, and how do you want to communicate those? So those are work-ons as well. So if we all stay true to that, I think we'll continue to get better as we're going. And each week kind of brings some new challenges to how they play and how they get it on. So that's kind of where I'm at now in this first quarter of the season, say, what are the things we want to work on to get better at? And then yours may be different than the next, may be different than the next, and that's okay. Let's make sure it's not one size fits all.
Thank you.
All right, you guys have a good one.